Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone'sacriticpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. On Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, YouTube, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We'll read your reviews on the air. On YouTube, click the bell to get notified when a new episode comes out. And then the best way to help support the podcast is patreon.com/criticspod. We're also have our TeePublic page at ihatecritics.net with lots of different artwork. And you can get masks, pillows, shirts, hoodies, whatever you want, notebooks. Cousin Jeff, he designed us some of those images. Are really, really cool. And he has his own TeePublic page as well. I gotta remember what it is, but just kind of maybe search Jeff Lasseter and you might be able to get to it.
I think he still has jefflasseter.com as well. So he's incredible. And everybody who sees his stuff loves his stuff. So
especially if you're into the stuff we're into. I mean, I'm assuming we're like-minded people. So it's very right in the same lane as us. Or if you like Golden Girls.
If you hate listen, that's great too. As long as you're listening, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can hate these guys. I'm going to listen to the entire show.
And if this is your first time on and you hate us, tell us someone you hate about our show and make them listen. Maybe they'll like it. All right, let's just jump right into it. We'll start with the Netflix movie. Is it Enola Holmes?
Enola Holmes, yes, starring Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things in the role of Sherlock Holmes' sister. And usually this type of thing is pretty low rent, or at least it's kind of one of those aspirational movies like the young Sherlock Holmes or something like that, where it's just they come up with this bizarre origin stories for characters and then they give them brothers and sisters as sequels that or cousins, or I met him once and he inspired, I don't know. But so usually you don't expect much from a movie like this. And I definitely wasn't expecting much from this. And what I found was a movie that has some of the spirit of H is for Happiness a little bit. It's got a strong spirit, and it really comes a lot from Millie Bobby Brown, who's a very charismatic young lady. Enola Holmes grows up in this mansion away from the world with her mom, played by Helena Bonham Carter. We don't even realize right away that she's the sister of Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes until a little ways in when they finally get to the point of, yes, that is in fact who she is. She's their little sister. I was kind of, obviously from the name, I kind of got an idea, but I actually was a little bit surprised. Which I guess I just my lack of attention probably more than anything. But I really do like her a lot, and I enjoyed this movie a lot. And I thought it had a strong spirit to it, strong characters. Henry Cavill is really good in this. It's amazing to see that he's now kind of an actor now. When he started off his career, he was not an actor. He was just this big slab of beef who was kind of handsome. And here he's very charming, and I really enjoyed that. And Sam Claflin is always reliable in a role where he's not quite a bad guy, not quite a good guy. He does that very well. He did that in Hunger Games as well. This is a really smart cast and it's a really terrific movie, actually.
So when you say it has a spirit of H is for Happiness, you're not putting on the same level though as a movie.
No, God, no, not nearly that brilliant. But like it has the same positive spirit to it. Like the ways that she turns to the camera and that little glint in her eye reminded me a little bit of that character. And I obviously, anytime I can think of that character, I'm very happy.
Nothing wrong with that. I did not get a chance to see it, but it's something the kids would enjoy, probably, or.
Absolutely, yeah. It's rated PG-13 for no good reason, other than maybe a little bit of violence here and there. But yeah, there's nothing really tremendously scary about this. In fact, there's a whole article on Wall Street. I think it's Forbes did an article about how this is the death of the PG-13, like how you can call this a PG-13 movie, just demonstrates why the MPAA is so useless. Which is not a new take. I don't know why this is in Forbes today.
Right. Yeah, it's just been a take since PG-13 existed, really.
I mean, the MPAA has always kind of been full of shit. It's just
right.
I mean, some of the things that got a PG back in the day should have been would be an R today. Like, it's weird.
Oh yeah, And I wonder, I feel like this shows up on my son's, who has none the adult. When he has his own Netflix, thing, and we cut out all the adult stuff. I swear to God, this was on it. So maybe they let PG-13 movies on there. I don't know. I've never really dug in that deep.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've even thought about what a movie's rated. So,
yeah. Speaking of what movies are rated, The Secret Society of the Second-Born Royals. Is this any good?
Secret Society of the Second-Born Royals is a Disney Plus movie, and not one of the ones that was ever intended to head to theaters. This was always going to Disney Plus. It would have been a Disney Channel movie back in the day. It's basically kind of X-Men crossed with Harry Potter, essentially. The idea here is that anybody who is a second-born royal, i.e. the people who are not going to ascend to the throne, are born with superpowers, and they are whisked away to this school to learn how to use their superpowers and become superheroes and become a superhero team a la the X-Men and protect the kingdom that way. So, they feel like they have a purpose instead of being, second-born and super rich and having nothing to do. This movie is bad. It's bad in a not so spectacular, very interesting way. The performances are underwhelming. The characters are poorly formed. The plotting is incredibly obvious. Just bat you over the head obvious. Because again, they're talking to children. This is for 8-year-olds. My goddaughter would maybe possibly enjoy this because she's not formed enough to have enough critical thinking to see what's awful about it. She pretty much enjoys anything she sees. And then, which any 8-year-old does. We as 8-year-olds did that as well. But I'm saying that this is not a movie that holds up to the type of critical scrutiny that I'm supposed to give it as a professional. And I just don't have it in me to care that much about this. Although I did write a full 700-word review of it.
I read it. I was like, I've seen it. I don't need to watch it. I've read enough. I'm good. Now, go ahead.
Your kids didn't demand to see this?
No, we haven't been. It's been weird. I've been working a lot. Maybe they saw it on their own. I just didn't watch it with them. But they didn't talk about it, so I don't really know what. I don't know. It's just been crazy lately. But have you had to watch movies like The Descendants, the Disney version, or like the early High School musicals that were straight to Disney? Did you get to watch those movies or have to watch them? Or
I only, it's funny. I watched The Descendants because my goddaughter was basically performing an entire version of it for me on FaceTime. So she'd do all the songs from that and want me to participate. So I had to watch it and kind of learn some of the songs so I could sing with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do that.
So,
but I did in working on my book recently, I did discover that I reviewed High School Musical 3 at some point.
That got to the theater.
Which I completely forgot about.
But that one actually went to the theater, I think.
Did it? I don't remember. I was just shocked that I'd actually written about it.
That was my Descendants, where my daughter really got into it, so I didn't sing along necessarily. Even at home, I'm still too. I can't let the guard down. But I guess I remember kids loving The Descendants. So is this on the same level, or is this even worse than that?
This is that at least doesn't have pretension to be anything more than it is. This kind of has a pretension towards being an actual a Harry Potter X-Men franchise. Which again, even though they didn't have any plans to take it to theaters, it's still that pretension remains there, and it's unfortunate. Makes it kind of sad.
Plus, is it a mixed cast of male and female, or is it? It's
led by a young woman, and the team is well integrated.
That's good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're not going to grab either the boys or the girls. So,
no.
I don't know. Yeah, but whatever. You got to try, I guess. You got to make money somehow.
Indeed.
The Shortcut.
The Shortcut is a new horror movie that is getting a theatrical release this week because basically anything can get a theatrical release at this point. There's plenty of room in the theaters. Shortcut is just an 80-minute R-rated horror movie that was made in Italy, but is set in, I don't know, America or England. I can't even tell where it's actually set. It's a bizarre movie about a group of 5 kids who are on a bus trip. The only one with them is the bus driver. We have no idea where they were going or where they're going to, but they end up on the titular shortcut after a tree falls on their original plans and cuts them off from the regular road. So they've got to go through this creepy shortcut through a tunnel, and the tunnel is haunted by a monster. But first, their bus gets stopped and entered by a serial killer who eats tongues, and I guess he does. I mean, that's what one of the characters says that he does. I don't know. They end up going into this tunnel. There's a monster in the tunnel. The monster eats the serial killer and the bus driver, and the kids have to figure out a way to survive from there. This is nothing particularly special. It's kind of a nice, cool monster design, I guess. And it's I like the kind of the practical monster makeup effects kind of thing. That's nice. That's a throwback. But there's nothing really special about this or memorable. It's not scary. It's not these kid characters aren't particularly exciting or interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the shortcut.
As you're describing it, I still have Disney in my head, so I'm putting it in that Disney tone, and it still kind of works for what it's going for.
If only it had that. I would have loved that kind of spirited, almost Disney-style Goosebumps movie. It would have been kind of nice.
It kind of
but this movie is way too self-serious for that.
Yeah.
The bus design is cool. I definitely noticed that. Like the one thing that really stood out was I like the bus with the rounded edges at the top, and it's got this cool red color. I dig that, but if I shouldn't be noticing that.
So was it a pretty small budget type movie then?
Yeah. This is like you said, the director is Alessio Ligori. They made this in Italy, and I don't know if it's set in England, if it's set in America. It's impossible to tell. That type of thing, like they're trying to hide exactly how and where and the ways in which this was made to appeal to any audience that they can. I guess you could take this to Italy and just dub it. You can take it to anywhere and just dub it, and it'll be very easy to dub. Lots of shots in the dark where you don't see you hear the characters talking, but you don't see them talking.
I mean, I can appreciate that from a totally indie perspective, but there's also different levels of indie. So
yeah.
Is it, the Kevin Smith indie, like the recent Kevin Smith indie, or the early Kevin Smith indie? Which one is it? So if it's early Kevin Smith indie, I can kind of appreciate some of the shortcomings of a movie like this. But if it's a little bit, if they got 6 figures to make this, then I don't know. It's just
some sad product filler stuff, really, more than anything, and that's there's no real spirit to it. It's just it's a very by the numbers presentation, and so I don't really have anything I can truly grab onto aside from maybe the monster creation is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's probably where they started and put all their effort into.
Pretty much.
Is that only available in theaters then right now, or is it streaming yet? I didn't even know.
It might be streaming and on theaters. I'm not sure. A lot of movie theaters have relaxed their rules on that. So some movies that are streaming are also in theaters. I know our local theater here usually has a rule where they won't run anything that is also available to stream. But it's weird. It's weird how that's going right now because they're just scrambling to get product in there, and they're taking just about anything they can get.
I mean, they've been putting, I remember they put the Rockies back in, and then I think Empire Strike Back might have gone into some theaters this week. I don't know.
Goonies has had a huge resurgence. Gremlins as well have been monsters at the box office.
Really?
I kid you not. Both those movies have been selling out theaters, bouncing around on road shows.
Jeez. I saw they were at our local drive-in, but I was like, I'm good.
Did you know that for a time this year, Jurassic Park was the #1 movie in America?
I believe it because I remember they were doing some fairly local. We're doing Jaws, Jurassic Park, drive-in double screenings. So
Mm-hmm.
if all the theaters
Yeah.
were closed in most of the states, I could see that happening.
At the time, like there were no new releases at the time, so it made sense.
Right. How are the theaters doing? Are they getting by?
No idea. I have no clue. I've not visited any one of them since. I mean, I did see Tenet, but that was at a small indie theater in a small town.
Practically a private screening.
Yeah, I was there by myself. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the Swerve.
The Swerve, boy, what a movie, huh? The Swerve stars Azura Sky as a teacher who is just kind of normal life. She's got two sons who act like typical teenagers. They're arguing, yelling at each other, fighting her. Her husband is on the verge of being promoted at his job to the manager of the grocery store. So things seem to be improving. But something about her mental state is not improving, and it's continuing to sort of slip away from her. We see early on that she takes pills for something. We never learn what it is, but that doesn't work once her sister seemingly arrives. Her sister kind of just causes this thing inside her to sort of snap. Well, that plus this bizarre encounter with a mouse that really just freaks her out. These two things seem to coincide at a moment where it's just, this is the time where things are going to start to devolve. This is an exceptionally well-directed movie. It's from a writer-director by the name of Dean Kapsalis. It's his first really daring, bold, and unique presentation here. But the star is a woman named Azura Sky, who I'm not particularly familiar with, but she has this wonderfully haunted face. She's just desperately sad whenever you see her. I don't know if there's actual joy that can escape from her. She has this void of just sadness. And I was just drawn to that sadness, like, I don't know, like the way that her one of her students is. She has this student who's enamored of her, and he takes to her this way where he just desperately wants to take care of this injured bird that she is. But she's not necessarily that, because she's really kind of dangerous and crazy. Perhaps that's all kind of just below the surface. Just how really nuts she might be, and the way things are slowly slipping away, and what's real and what isn't. And the portrayal here of mental illness is really scary, very horror film kind of presentation of somebody who is slowly losing grip on reality. And I was riveted by that. This is an incredible movie.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I feel like other movies have done the what's real, what's not better, because I really had no idea at all. There's only a few things I was positive about that really happened. Otherwise, it was just like, did she kill those kids or didn't she? Is her husband cheating on her? Isn't he? There were so many, how much of it's in her head, how much of it's not. And, I'll take it. I think I like Horse Girl better. The one Allison Brie did earlier this year.
Yeah.
I thought that was a better portrayal of it. And even something like Observe and Report, I thought did a better job of the unreliable narrator, but it's still very good, and she's exceptional in it. It leads up to a very intense ending. But it's I don't know. It was a frustrating movie because I was never really sure where I was at. But
trying to find something to grab onto that is the objective reality might have grounded a little bit more the kind of tragic things that start to happen towards the end. I thought there was a particular note that just missed on one big moment near the end that I was really involving her kids, that I thought would have been a much more powerful moment. But it's her story. It's not theirs. So I get that you don't need to necessarily linger in that moment, but I wanted something a little bit more out of that. There's this plot point about a pie that is a little bit fumbled, just a little bit, because in terms of the logical placement of where the pie ends up, just kind of I needed a little bit something more to demonstrate what happened there.
Yeah.
But overall, I really thought the movie was very strong.
Yeah, and I think part of that's on purpose, the frustration, how frustrating is it to have mental illness? They kind of, in a way, put you where she's at. And I didn't necessarily like being there, nor does she, obviously. But, you're right. That scene right there, you almost had to, once it was over, you have to kind of look back. So what happened? and replay it to yourself while it's, really starting to ramp up the intensity from then on out. But it is a good movie. I think people should check it out because it is, it's something different than what you're used to seeing. And even if you don't necessarily like being in the frame of mind it puts you in, it's still an experience. And I'll take that any day over really the other three movies we've talked about, even though the good ones.
I would say that I think this is a top 10 movie of the year. Maybe not top 5, but definitely top 10 for me.
Maybe right now. It depends on how the year plays out, but I definitely can see, just for the originality alone and the way it messes with you as a viewer, I can definitely appreciate that. I have no idea what my top 10 is, though.
It's such a weird year. It's so weird. Yeah. Like, I know H is for Happiness and She Dies Tomorrow are right there at the top with the Invisible Man, but that's I think I'm not sure if I could go much deeper than that right off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I have The Hunt in there, and obviously I get those as well. It's hard to, nothing else is that memorable, so I don't know.
I'm not including Hamilton. I know Hamilton for me was this kind of transcendent experience, but I don't look at Hamilton like I look at a movie.
Right.
It still feels like more of a play and a special event to me than it is a movie. But if I considered it a movie, it would be number one. But I've removed it from movies. I've just set that aside as more of an emotional
right.
Broadway experience.
No, and I think that's the right call. Plus, with some of these 90 movies and classics we've been going through, it's hard to... it's not really fair to this year either. Let's see. The Dark Divide.
The Dark Divide stars David Cross as Robert Pyle, who is a lepidopterist. He is a butterfly expert. He decides that he's going to use this grant money that he's received to go on this journey into what they call the Dark Divide, which is this massive forest in the state of Washington. If you're going to hike it, you should be an expert in doing so. And he is not necessarily an expert. He's an expert in butterflies, and he's been in the field, but this is his first time really taking on a serious hike. And the reason he's decided to do this at this time is because recently his wife, played by Deborah Messing, Tia, has passed away, and he's dealing with his grief. And he's going to go off on this journey and maybe try to just throw himself into work and try and run from his grief. But obviously being alone in this gorgeous forest is not going to be ideal for trying to, switch his mind off from where it was. David Cross is a very unique choice for a performance like this. He's not a guy who he's not a guy I associate with sort of earnest, honest emotion. He's more of a guy I associate with kind of intimidation. I'm intimidated by him in his comedy. Like as my sister and I were always huge stand-up fans growing up, and we were always talk about wanting to meet people like Patton Oswalt or Brian Posehn, who seemed like just the nicest, most approachable people in the world. But one person we were a fan of that we never want to meet is David Cross, because it feels like he is so intimidatingly, like, you don't know what the objective reality with David Cross is, whether he's going to be kind or not. And because that's just kind of the way he cultivates himself on stage. He doesn't seem to like anybody. And then you see him as Tobias on Arrested Development, and is this absurdist character. And then you've got Mr. Show, which is another thing where he completely rejects any type of honest, earnest emotionality. And so to see him play this character was very unusual, but it turns out that's actually a perfect choice. You need somebody who is naturally quirky as opposed to somebody who would be trying to play the quirks. A real actor might try to develop business or develop a quirk to lean into, and Cross is already there. That's just kind of who he is. He's just kind of a quirky performer to begin with. And so the quirks of Robert Pyle become the quirks of David Cross, and it felt more natural, and it played into the sort of realism on display here. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed a lot of this movie. I found that Cross, finds a way to explore Robert Pyle and to explore grief in a way that is not typical, not traditional. It fights against the typical, the emotional pulls that usually come from a movie like this. You don't get necessarily big, drawn out, dramatic moments of him just, crumpling into tears. You get a couple of those moments, but nothing like big, grand, actorly flourishes. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that throughout, he's here to do this butterfly thing, and he does it from time to time. They generally allow him to be the expert that he is. I liked that. I like a lot of this movie.
Is it, in terms of your average person, like, where does it land on the watchable scale? Because sometimes these movies can be a little bit more daunting or homeworky.
I think there's a quality to it that Cross again brings that makes it much more watchable than you might expect. Because people assume something like this is going to be grave and ponderous and very heavy, and there's a heaviness to it because it is about a man who lost his wife, but it's not so heavy that it's unendurable, and I really appreciated that aspect of it. I thought it was really well done in that way that. It is quite watchable for what is a very heavy topic.
And it's available on virtual theaters, which isn't much different than streaming. It's just a little bit harder to get to. You gotta go to the websites, or this one particularly. You have to go to it's not the darkdivide.com, but it's like the Dark Divide movie or .com or something.
Darkdividefilm.com. Yeah, if you want to see it in virtual theaters, that way is the way to do it. It was produced actually by the company, by the outdoors company REI, which is an interesting way to make a movie. But yeah, I mean, you're going to make a movie, you need somebody to pay for it, and REI, being that this was an outdoorsman type movie, they stepped up on that, and they're also a very, they play it, at least as a corporation, they play it being a very environmentally friendly company. So, I appreciate that. And this is a very environmentalist sort of movie. There's actually an appearance by a spotted owl in the movie, which I thought was interesting. Hadn't heard about the spotted owl in a long time. I got to say something about a review I read, or not, just a clip I read about The Dark Divide. A critic I'm not going to name the website or the critic himself, but it was his comments on Rotten Tomatoes if you want to see it for yourself. But I thought this was a bizarre sort of criticism. And maybe you'll change my mind on this, Bob. Maybe you could examine it differently. But he says, a good-looking wilderness trek that's likable enough for a few stretches. This biopic is unfortunately frequently stretched too thin, and Pyle's inexperience is often frustrating. That last line is baffling to me. His inexperience being in the outdoors is a plot point.
Yeah,
it's brought up very early in the movie and mentioned that he's not an experienced hiker, and his his travels, his failures, his stumbling through the wilderness, getting lost. He's supposed to be out there for I think 3 weeks, and he's out there for 45 days because he just kind of wandered off and got lost. He's never in danger, which I also appreciate. Like, there's never really a really genuine sense of like unendurable danger, but there are a couple moments where he stumbles, falls, screws up, and he repeatedly. But that's part of him, being lost in this grief, and it's a commentary on him not being experienced. That's part of the whole thing, is that he doesn't have this experience, and he's having it for the first time. And also, you need those type of dramatic contrivances in order to have a story, because otherwise the story is a guy who's really good at being in the outdoors, who doesn't have any problems and just watches butterflies. So what were you watching the movie for?
No kidding.
That's kind of a silly. And also, are you criticizing the character or the real guy? Because the real guy wasn't experienced either at the time. So who are you criticizing? Don't understand the criticism.
I feel like this is something everybody, not just critics, but everybody who watches anything or even listens to music, any sort of art, sometimes they get caught up in reviewing what they wanted versus what they got. And I think that's a failure, and we all do it. But I think that's what he was doing there. He wanted something else, and so you started reviewing it that way, and I don't think that's fair to a movie. I mean, again, we've all done it. I'm sure you can go back and find plenty of episodes where I've done it.
I'm sure we've both done it.
Oh yeah,
I'm not above it either, but I mean, this is a bizarre criticism for a true story. Right. That his inexperience is frustrating. That's the story.
Right. Well, I mean,
should they just not have told the story?
Right. I mean, part of, like, even the swerve, I mentioned that being frustrating to me, but that was kind of the intent of you're kind of getting in her head, and she's frustrated and she's paranoid, and that wasn't the most pleasant place for me to be watching the movie. You know, I didn't like it, but that was what they were trying to do. So I appreciate them getting that out of me. You know, if you want to go about it that route or something like that, but to say it sucks because of that is stupid.
You can criticize like how they present the inexperience, like that would make sense, and maybe that's what he's going for. But just saying that you found his inexperience frustrating is weird, because I'm sure it was pretty frustrating for him too.
Well, is he an inexperienced critic? Because like you said, if that's what he was going for, he would have been more. You know, you would have explained that better and not just had a throwaway line at the end of a paragraph.
Yeah.
Have you read this guy's review of Into the Wild?
I have not.
I'm definitely curious. Should we just head there now then?
Sure, yeah, that's our classic.
Let me hit the button.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
Into the Wild.
2007, Sean Penn directing, Emil Hirsch, and an all-star cast, and the story of Christopher McCandless, who was a real person who went on this actual journey and ended up dead. I went into this movie the first time seeing it with a real kind of an attitude. I mean, as much as I appreciate Sean Penn, and I love The Pledge. The Pledge is one of the greatest movies ever made, as far as I'm concerned. I went into this movie with an attitude like, that guy got himself killed. Like, what an idiot. Like, that guy's a moron. What do I care if this guy's dead? He shouldn't have did what he did. And I came out of it in tears, just desperately sad at the various avenues that this man's life could have taken if he would have just not been so single-mindedly obsessed with something that didn't exist. And that is just, Sean Penn is amazing at presenting that. So Christopher McCandless, I believe he was in Atlanta, and he left behind a rich family and Harvard Law waiting for him. And Burns is, his identification, and just wanders off and starts walking across the country with plans to end up in Alaska and just be alone, just to be away from the world. And along the way, he meets all these various different people who he bonds with and creates this short-term family bond with. And each time he meets somebody, it's like, this could be the life that he wants. You see something where he seems to find happiness and then immediately turns away from it. And that happens throughout. And I think especially one that is incredibly powerful is him and Hal Holbrook, who is just heartbreaking in this movie. Just when you think about the relationship that these two develop in a short period of time, this sort of grandfather-grandson relationship where, if he would have just turned his head just a little bit, he would have seen that this could be maybe the life that he wants, or this could be where happiness is. They also present that in terms of a character I believe was made up, played by Kristen Stewart, who offers this sort of romantic option for him as well. And she's incredible. This is, of course, before everybody hated her, which is nice. She didn't have to worry about what everybody had to say about her so much then. But she's really just very relaxed and sweet and delivers a wonderful performance. And one thing about Sean Penn's direction Sean Penn's ideas, I guess, when he's directing a movie, he's so interested in obsession. He's interested in the things that consume people to the point of death. You get that in The Pledge, where Nicholson becomes just deeply obsessed with solving this murder case, and to the point of driving himself completely insane. And in the car in the crossing guard, it's Nicholson again, desperately obsessed with revenge the person who killed his daughter, to the point where he ends up getting himself nearly killed. And now Christopher McCandless, whose obsession is not so dire, but is still an obsession that he can't resist. He can't get away from this single-minded idea of, I want to get to the wilderness and be alone. And he refuses to give that up. And in doing so, he ends up in an ending that is just one of the saddest things I've ever seen. That Eddie Vedder song. Well, I mean, my God.
Yeah. I know, I'm with you. I don't like you mix the I don't remember what the word you use, but with the passion of Sean Penn's, this is a passion project for him, mixed with probably everything he does. But then you mix that with the character, and you just, I don't know, it's, similar when we talk about Raging Bull. It's a movie I put off to the side, and I really can't put into a list because it's not your typical movie. It's not one I enjoy watching even, but it's an experience every time I see it. It's just, I don't know, it's such a well-made performance. Emil Hirsch is, you can, even taking a step back, looking at his career, him and Shia LaBeouf were like, which one of these two are going to be the big star going forward? And they both went down weird paths. He went down a more indie smart path, and I don't know what the hell Shia did.
He's finding himself now, so that's not too bad.
But it was, you have that's kind of going on in the background of Hollywood at the moment, and then this comes out, and it's just like, this is like a perfect looking kid. I mean, he's practically, Fred Savage from the Wonder Years or Zach Morris and I mean, he's that good looking, and it runs into a movie like this, and it's just, you throw that in there too, mixed with the passion project, mixed with the true story that goes with it. All these like big name actors doing character work, just, cameo pieces that add that much more to it. This is an awesome movie. I mean, and then you throw an Eddie Vedder score, which,
oh my God, yeah,
in some ways is, well, as good as it is also possibly like the worst thing about it. That's how good this movie is.
My sister, when she saw this movie for the first time, and they reached near the end, and Eddie Vedder starts just wailing with this just desperate pain, she had to walk out.
Yeah,
because she was just that level of emotional about it. She just couldn't take it.
Well, I mean, you talk about guys who don't take anything lightly. Like I saw Pearl Jam when they came to Moline, and he came out, with a bottle of wine. And he says that he wrote a song called Moline. He was going to play it, and I'm thinking it's going to be some goofy song about Moline. And no, it's about a woman running away from an abusive husband, moving from Detroit to Moline. It was just like, he didn't even phone that in. I don't know if you've ever heard that song or not, but
no, I've never heard of that.
They played it one time. You have to go to YouTube and type in Pearl Jam Moline.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's, but I mean, and that's what's weird is, and the only reason I say it's the worst part is because it's such a unique voice. It's so, it's Eddie Vedder. So in a way, it pulls me out a bit. But in those moments at the end, like you said, though, when it all blends perfectly, it's total magic. And Josh doesn't like this movie at all, and I don't know why. He loves Pearl Jam, he loves the cold, he loves the mountains, he loves nature. So I don't really know. I texted him this morning trying to find out why.
Yeah.
Other than maybe the homework factor, which, I guess it really, sometimes where you're at mentally when you go to watch a movie like this, I could see it if you're not in the mood, but
the intensity of the emotion is incredibly overwhelming, and whereas, like I said, The Dark Divide has a watchability, and this one does too because it's so professionally and so incredibly well crafted. But when you reach that ending, it is oppressively sad, and if you're not in that space where you're able to endure that, I get it.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, you spend the whole time saying what if, or trying to put yourself in there, and it's I don't know. And then even me, I just go and take it from there and just kind of throw it on myself and stuff that I can't make a decision on, or my point of view on things. And how do I really feel about this and that? And I don't know, the way Sean Penn captured all that really, I don't know. I just found it really amazing. And I was even watching, this is kind of unrelated to the movie, but it reminds me of the movie. Like, I was watching Mark Maron on Instagram Live, and he was talking about how him and a fairly liberal guy, they went looking for guns, and they're anti-gun people. And he's like, what makes someone like us go, and he was just sitting there. He ended up not getting one. I think his friend did, maybe. I ended up having to leave, but it was just kind of he was just really digging into what makes our minds, why is this happening to make our mind go there? And then you put it in this movie, and why, how does it get there? And how do you not, it looks like he's starting to snap out of it, and then he never fully does. It's just, I don't know. I appreciate it. I understand what he's doing, and maybe that's what he wants. It's not what he wants.
But when he doesn't want to die,
no,
that's an important point. You get to a point where he realizes at the end, and Penn just plays it out in looks, because obviously he's there by himself. He can't necessarily talk it out, but he plays it out in these looks. And there's this famous picture of Christopher McCandless that's you can find online very easily. It's the first thing you see when you look up his name. It's just this final photo right before he died, and Penn builds up to that moment and builds up to that scene, and the sense that Christopher McCandless has realized that, oh shit, I'm going to die, and wow, That moment is incredible.
I know. And then you look at the people he meets. They're all somewhat like-minded, but they're not quite all the way where he's at. And it's just like, if he could just kind of dial it to where they're at, he would be so, I don't know. Like you said, the grandfather, even the hippies. All of it.
Catherine Keener and Rainey.
Yeah, it's just so, I don't know. It's frustrating and beautiful at the same time, and it's real, and it really does make you, if you let it, just get in, analyze a human being's mind and how they get to a point where they get. And I totally buy how he gets there. That's I don't know. I love the movie.
It is great. It is a great, great, great movie.
Anything else on Into the Wild before we move on?
No.
All right, King of New York.
What a bummer. This movie's a bummer. Abel Ferrara directs this King of New York with Christopher Walken as Frank White, a man who's just out of jail and returning to his drug kingdom, where he's got a bunch of stereotypical 90s black actors doing all typically 90s stereotypical black actor stuff. Who they're all selling drugs for him, and he's going to take over New York, and he's kind of this, but he's not a bad guy, because he's like Robin Hood, because he wants to sell drugs so he can fund a hospital, and he wants to rebuild New York, in the nicest way. He wants to get rid of the really, really bad people who are doing really bad things, and he'll be the only one doing bad things, but he'll be doing bad things for a good reason. I'm bringing a lot more order to it than Abel Ferrara does, because the movie is much more sprawling and meandering and racist than even I'm laying it out as. It's a mess. This movie's a mess. You've got a couple of cops played by Wesley Snipes and David Caruso, who I guess have the strongest element of the plot. They're demonstrating that they're cops who want to stop Frank White and stop crime and do what cops do, but they also want to be able to go outside the law in order to do that. And it plays out as Abel Ferrara plays out. It plays out that they try to go outside the law to do this, and they end up demonstrating why you don't go outside the law to do something like this, that's a solid through point, but they're not the main characters. No. Frank White is, and when you're left without Christopher Walken on the scene, these scenes tend to drag on forever. So even when you have Lawrence Fishburne and Steve Buscemi in an early scene, they're Lawrence Fishburne and Steve Buscemi, but they weren't them at the time.
No.
They weren't the actors we know at that time, and they're playing characters who aren't very interesting. And meanwhile, you've already kind of sort of been introduced to Frank White, and you're waiting for Christopher Walken to do Christopher Walken things, and he never really does. He looks so insanely bored at the start of this movie. It almost seems like he's just barely keeping his soul inside his body. That's how bored he is as he rides around in this limousine, observing the drug kingdom around him. I think he's trying to evince how sad he is, that this is the state of the city, and that he thinks he can make it better, but through his crime. But I didn't pick up on that until afterwards. While I was watching it, like just do something, just have an emotion, have some kind of reaction, do something.
But then when he finally does something, he just does a goofy dance. So you go from that blank stare to this goofiness, and it's in a way this movie has so much potential. It's like missing one important thing, and I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
To tie the stereotypical racism and the gratuitous violence and the cop stuff. The cops want to go outside. It's like there's something, if you could just pull this together and make this it could be really amazing. Walken could come off creepy doing what he's doing. There's just so much, but it's just missing something huge, pulling all of that together.
Amen.
To make it, have a reason for it. Because I don't think it means to be stereotypical racism. I don't know if it's the time or if he had a point, he just didn't make his point well enough.
Yeah.
But, there's so much. There's some great scenes when David Caruso meets his demise. That was pretty cool.
That was a shocker. Yeah.
But after a while, there were so many shockers that it was just like, I get.
I think that was the most Abel Ferrara moment in an Abel Ferrara movie.
Right. I mean, there's stylish violence in it, but there's not a good enough point. I feel like I'm missing the point he was trying to make, and if it was just simply the Robin Hood thing, I came to that too, but that wasn't strong enough for me. I didn't find myself. If you're going to make that point, I need to be thinking, would I be willing to agree to this and think it's okay? And I wasn't even questioning that. Instead, I was just watching the stylish violence for what it was, and it was stylish at times, but then I just kind of got bored and wanting more. I mean, I know this movie has a cult classic vibe to it. People do love this movie. I'd never seen it before.
Yeah, I think I saw it years ago. I don't really remember much about it. I'm baffled by, I guess maybe it's time that has not been kind to this movie. When you look back at what Lawrence Fishburne's performance is just among the strangest things I've ever seen, because it's so bad, and Lawrence Fishburne is such a good actor.
Well, you're
just watching this going, this is a terrible performance.
Well, I've never seen him act like that. He's always way more stoic, and here he was just super loose. And at first I was kind of like, okay, I kind of enjoyed it early on just because I wasn't used to seeing Lawrence Fishburne act like that. And then
it's funny. Go ahead.
Well, then it just, like you said, it started to just turn bad because it never got pulled to where it needed to be pulled.
This came out after Hollywood Shuffle, which baffles me, because Hollywood Shuffle, Lawrence Fishburne is basically playing Robert Townsend's character from Hollywood Shuffle, and then just doing every stereotypical thing that Robert Townsend made fun of in that movie. And I'm like, how are you still doing this in this time?
Yeah. And there has to be a point. I just feel like he missed it. I mean, maybe I'm just giving it hope because Abel Ferrara has made some great movies. And I mean, Miss
45 is just such a tight film. That movie's just got such a focus and a fearsomeness to it that was so exciting. And this does not have that. And this is a kind of a point I know you tend to latch onto, that this is the most expensive movie that Abel Ferrara ever made. This is the biggest budget that he ever had. And it leads to that question: did they give him too much? Was he given too much here, and would he have done a better job if he had more limitations? Yeah, because I feel like I think one of his intents was lost, and maybe not. Maybe it really is just that bad.
It's not bad either way, but maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Maybe The Bad Lieutenant sucks. I haven't seen it in a long time. In a few years, we're going to come up on it, and hopefully it makes us feel good about Abel Ferrara again. But yeah, I was just kind of bummed. I mean, it's weird too, because Christopher Walken has gone from this kind of creepy guy to this comedic guy ever since the cowbell stuff. And so it's weird for me too you can't erase that, because now we've seen him in the comedic stuff. So it's not as creepy as it probably was at the time. But I don't know. It's just, I wanted to like this way more, and I'm trying to find ways to like it more, and I just can't.
Yeah, it's a tremendous disappointment to me, and I don't really know where this cult following comes from.
I mean, it's probably the same cult following that gets into things like Scarface, and I mean, they like movies like Goodfellas too. Just, kind of building yourself. I don't know. No rules. Take care of it yourself. You'll do a better job than the people in charge will do. That I don't know. That's kind of the only thing I can get from it.
Yeah.
And the stylish violence. I mean, the violence is pretty outstanding in not necessarily a good way. Just it's over the top. So.
Mm-hmm. It is over the top.
Did you see anything else? Pacific Heights, Texasville, I Come in Peace.
Oh, fuck! I forgot about Texasville. We have to move that to next week.
Is that good?
No, but that's the sequel to Last Picture Show, isn't it?
Oh, it looked boring as hell, but it does have that. It is Sybil Shepherd and Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, I think that's what that is. Yeah, I totally had this planned out in my mind months ago that we were going to do this and Last Picture Show together, and I completely forgot about it.
So should we move A Serious Man then for another time? I mean, we've done it before.
Yeah, okay. I really wanted to see those two movies together for whatever reason.
All right. So next week, I'm assuming you didn't watch I Come in Peace or Pacific Heights then?
I mean, I've seen them both. Pacific Heights, I think, is the one with Michael Keaton and Matthew Modine, I think.
Yep. I remember the cover, and I have seen I Come in Peace. It sounds like never mind. Next week we got I Just Want to Be Juvenile.
Yeah.
Eternal Beauty, The Antenna, and A Call to Spy. Hopefully something else. We got the classic Last Picture Show, like we said, along with the sequel Texasville. 1990 had Miller's Crossing come out as well. Avalon, Basket Case 2, Desperate Hours, Henry and June, something about Quincy Jones, some documentary, I think, and then Marked for Death. I'm sure you're going to watch that one. You've seen one of.
Oh yeah, so I'm a huge Steven Seagal fan.
Yeah, so that is our show. If you want to support the podcast, patreon.com/criticspod, or head over to ihatecritics.net and get yourself some merch from our TeePublic page. And then if you want to rate and review the show on whatever platform you listen to, please do so. And also let us know, and we'll read the review on the air, especially if you're in a different country. They're hard to find, all the reviews. I used to get them emailed to me, but I don't anymore. Rate and review the show. That does help us out. Patreon and TeePublic. Otherwise, we can move on to Flickchart. The Fountain. Cool. The Fountain or Goodfellas?
Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Weepy Ray Liotta versus Weepy Hugh Jackman. Liotta's only weepy because he's on so much cocaine.
Yeah, he doesn't start out weepy.
That stuff makes your eyes water.
Right. And your nose red. Oh, man. Come on, Internet. Let's see here. My whole family is streaming shit right now. They used to be good about not being online, watching stuff while I recorded. All right. Baby Driver, 310 to Yuma, 2007.
Oh, that's not hard at all. 310 to Yuma.
Say, you didn't like Baby Driver.
No, I was thinking of Drive. Every time I hear Baby Driver, I think of Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, 310 to Yuma was way. I like Baby Driver, although I don't know. I don't really want to go back to it. Casper, the Birdcage.
Ugh. Casper, the Birdcage is one of the ugliest movies I've ever seen.
Okay, this is going to be fun. I'm not even going to change it. You haven't seen the movie, but you're going to have to guess anyway. Pearl Harbor or How the West Was Fun, starring the Olsen twins.
You think I haven't seen that?
I haven't seen it, but I think I'd rather watch it.
Absolutely.
It's probably shorter. Main reason.
It's like 52 minutes. Yeah.
Jaws 2. I'm Not a Rappaport. 1996. Walter Matthau, Ozzie Davis.
I don't think I've seen that one actually.
I have not either. Jaws 2. Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny.
Jaws. Pick of Destiny. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking there.
Thinking Jaws.
Yeah.
Wow, just shit all day long. Bruce Almighty, Encino Man.
Bruce Almighty.
I Love You Man, Accepted.
Accepted's a guilty pleasure for me, but I Love You Man's a better movie.
Yeah. The Cider House Rules, Wag the Dog.
Wag the Dog. Fuck Cider House Rules so hard.
I don't think Wag the Dog would be relevant in 2020, though.
We become so far surreal that movie is just, it's lost to time now.
The Island, Sherlock, The Abominable Bride. What the hell? Is that a movie?
I'm not sure what. I think that's a TV. I think that's the Benedict Cumberbatch TV show.
You are correct. The Island, Fun with Dick and Jane.
Fun with Dick and Jane.
I don't have an opinion, so I'll go with you. There's Something About Mary or Edge of Tomorrow.
There's Something About Mary.
Agreed. Jesus. Jaws 2, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Jaws 2.
Yeah, at least Jaws 1 was good. Die Hard 2, Friday.
Friday.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to watch that one again. So we have 5 more years before we can realize that's not good. As of now, I still like it.
Exactly.
Hopefully that doesn't get ruined. Kingsman, The Secret Service, or Mary Poppins. 1964.
Mary Poppins.
The Brothers Grimm, Taken.
Taken.
Okay, Last Action Hero, Office Space.
Office Space. Although I have an appreciation for Last Action Hero.
Well, 3 years from now, we'll see if that changes. The Wedding Planner, 500 Days of Summer.
Just a quick tangent, just about Last Action Hero. Like the weekend it came out, I was supposed to go see it, and one of the greatest heartbreaks of my young childhood life was walking out of my house and seeing that my ride had left without me, and I wasn't going to see the movie.
Wow.
I know. It was such a dick move. I've got great friends.
That Last Action Hero is why I'm such a big Aerosmith fan.
Oh, really?
They have the live Dream On with the orchestra. That's the first time I'd ever heard Dream On.
Oh.
And I saw it on MTV as part of the, whatever it was. And I was like, holy shit, this is the best song ever made. And I went out and bought the greatest hits and I listened to that. And I was like, this song sucks. Where's the orchestra? I mean, I've grown to like it, but
right.
I don't know. There definitely was no passion in the band at that point. They were all like, Steven Tyler's annoying. We're going to just play this as bland as possible. It's all about that scream at the end. If you don't have that, it's kind of a boring song. Anyway.
It kind of is.
The Wedding Planner, 500 Days of Summer.
500 Days of Summer.
But that orchestra one's awesome.
It is.
Sister Act, Flight Plan, sorry.
I would prefer Fight Plan. Sister Act.
Yeah. Get Out, James and the Giant Peach.
Get Out.
Cool Hand Luke, Frequency.
Cool Hand Luke.
Agreed. Hot Fuzz, AI Assault. That looks like a sci-fi
Never heard of
movie.
it.
Hot Fuzz, Black Sheep.
I don't really care for either of those, so Hot Fuzz.
13 Ghosts, The Disaster Artist.
The Disaster Artist. 13 Ghosts is a different type of disaster altogether.
Yes, it is. 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Get Smart.
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
I'll go with you on that one. Let's see here. Come on, Internet. This isn't as fun when you're just buffering. All right. Let's see what happens if I hit this button. Man, this is totally frozen on me. Here we are. We're moving. No, I got a black screen. What the hell? Yeah, we're still talking. All right. Driving Miss Daisy. It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.